Welcome, and it is a wonderful evening, and it's great to be an American, isn't it?
Amen.
And don't you just love the change that's going on in our country? No? Yes? Welcome to our town hall. Anyway, I've got to read a few things here, be sort of perfunctory. Welcome to our Tea Party, Sutter Buttes Tea Party Patriots and Yuba, Sutter and Yuba County Supervisors Town Hall meeting. And on my left over here we have Matt Conant. He is Sutter County Supervisor District 5. There's Matt. Dan Flores, Sutter County Supervisor District 2. Andy, I'm always on the radio on Saturday morning. Vasquez, Yuba County Supervisor District number 1. And Randy Fletcher, Yuba County Supervisor District number 5, who I think probably wants to act on a radio show. Anyway, so welcome to our town hall meeting, and let me kind of tell you what we're going to be doing. Each of the following people will be allowed 10 minutes to introduce themselves and a little background on what issues they think their constituents are interested in. And after all four have had their say, there is time for you to ask questions. And we don't want you to fire questions up, be disruptive, things like that we're seeing in some of the other town halls, because this is not one of those kind of town halls. And if you do get disruptive or whatever, I'll give you my best teacher look. Remember that from the old days? Teachers would give you that scour. I've got a really good one. So when you get that, and you get that feeling like, oh, that's my 6th grade teacher look, sit down. Okay? That would probably be the best thing. That's your clue. We have, as you can see over here, microphones on each end, and you're welcome to stand behind the microphones, and we'll call on you to ask your question. And please try and be as brief as possible. This is not a Delphi meeting. You recognize those? Okay, like the Department of Water Resources meetings? Which, by the way, I'll have some comments on it. But this is not one of those, so we want it to be a free exchange of information and get the information we think that's important to all of you out during the meeting. Says instructions for an audience. Again, I just gave you those. The ones I gave you are the best ones. They're much better than what's written on here. So there you have it. Anyway, so without further ado, Matt Conant, he is a Sutter County Supervisor from District 5. His first 10 minutes.
Well, thank you very much for having me tonight. I'm a third-generation farmer in South Sutter County over walnut growers. And my grandfather started the ranch in the 20s and were some of the first people that settled there in the Rioso area. They boarded mules originally for the Thomas Company to build levees. And that's how they made their money to start with. But my son is farming with me now, and I have a wife, and my wife Lorene didn't come tonight. She comes to a lot of these things sometimes, but she didn't want to come tonight. She's kind of got a lot of stuff going on at the end of the school year. And then I have another son, Greg, and my oldest son, Matthew, like I said, farms with me. The issues for the county that I see are the most critical are, number one, I think the Oroville Dam issue and spillway has to be repaired correctly, and it has to be fully accountable and transparent. And that, I think, is the biggest problem, because these other problems that I'm going to talk about, if we don't get them resolved next year or the following year, we can get to them eventually. But if the Oroville Dam was not done correctly and repaired correctly, I can see that we could have some serious issues come next November. This could be a wet cycle we're in. I don't know. I'm not a weather forecaster. Of course, they aren't too accurate either. So, but it absolutely has to be fixed. And I would like to see that the spillway is lowered like 40 feet so we can create a buffer zone in the lake when we have a big storm event. And maybe instead of being 500,000 acre feet of storage extra, have maybe 1 million acre feet of storage extra in the dam come a big storm event. Because a lot of times you can foresee these storms coming, and if they make a hole, you don't have to have huge flows down the river and over top levees and overstress the levees. That's the next issue, is levee repair in Sutter County. We still got issues in Yuba City, and the bypass has not been done at all. And we also have issues down by Star Bend and clear down to Sacramento Avenue. And those levees have not been repaired, and they've got to be repaired. The seepage problems this year were horrendous. The next issue that I can see is pretty important to me is we have to be fiscally responsible as our county and get our budget in order a little better. And with that, our unfunded pension liability, we also need to have a plan to address that. The next issue is we must preserve and protect agriculture in Sutter County. Ag is a $3 billion industry in Sutter County. Each year it returns that to the local economy and creates a tremendous amount of jobs. And with that, what nobody really looks at is all the ag-related businesses like manufacturing equipment, like Nelson Manufacturing, OMC, UC Steel Products. All those companies build a tremendous amount of resources that generate back to the community, good paying jobs. OMC, I think, presently hires about 100 welders every day. That's a tremendous number of employees. And of course, then you have people like SunSweet as well, which, by the way, they're going to celebrate their 100th anniversary this year. The next thing is we need to hire code enforcement officers in Sutter County to deal with our illegal marijuana growing, homeless issues, and also property that's not maintained correctly for fire safety and other things. And then the next issue is homeless, which I've touched on. We have to find a solution to the homeless problem in our county.
Work farm.
And when you figure that one out, I've got some ideas, but I'm not sure they're good. You know, it's just a tough road to hoe. The next issue is we must, is Sutter Point. It's coming down the line, and that's a development in South Sutter County near the Sacramento County line. And it's a huge development and has already went through the general plan amendment process. It's going to come our way. We just need to make sure that it's done in a very responsible, transparent way, so that all the voters are accepting what we get out of the deal. And the next issue is roads and infrastructure. We must improve our roads. We had a horrible time with roads this year because of all the water damage from the rains and then all the truck traffic hauling rocks to repair all the levees. We got roads that are just thrashed, especially one of those roads. Any road that was going from the highway to the levee is in pretty bad shape because there's a lot of rock that was hauled on a lot of roads. And I think that's pretty much all I had to talk about. I hope I used my 10 minutes up. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. And Sutter County Supervisor, District 2, Dan Flores.
Okay, great. First, I just want to say thank you for having us here tonight. Listening to the history of the town halls and seeing or hearing that, to me, makes me think that we should be doing this all the time. I mean, the fact that this is an anomaly is kind of frightening when you think about it, because the four of us, I know in particular, but all of your political representatives are just that. They're representatives of you, and they should be serving what your needs are. And I'm with you. I know we have problems all the way around, but we are here, and I'm honored to be here. Frankly, I've served for 2.5 years now as a Sutter County Supervisor, and I was starting to feel like you guys were not going to ever invite me. So I'm honored to be here because I work closely with Nate Black, who told me about his great experience coming here and sharing information. And we work very closely together on a lot of issues, especially financial, dealing with the county. I work closely with James Gallagher all the time. I visit him quite frequently, actually, and we talk on lots of subjects. But again, for me, background first. I ran 3 years ago. I'm a tax-paying small business owner in California who feels, frankly, completely beat up by the whole system. I'm tired of the regulations. I'm tired of government telling me what to do and taking away my freedom. My freedom, for me, is the most important aspect of my life. It's the most important trait that I think we have as Americans that we need to continue to preserve. So for me, I feel like every time we get a regulation or something dumb is written by people up at the state or even the federal level, and then we have to live by those, it's almost impossible for us to do. It's impossible for us to raise our families here with small businesses. I know Matt and I talk about this in particular all the time, as well as Supervisor Fletcher here, as the three of us do own businesses, and we have to live in this environment. So I ran because I was completely frustrated. I have a wife. I've been married for 25 years. We live in Yuba City. My son attends Yuba City High School. He's a freshman. He loves playing basketball. I don't know where he got that from. It wasn't from me, I can tell you that. My daughter is a junior at the University of San Francisco, which, I'm not sure what she's doing over there, but, learning the ways of the evil side. But she's over there right now, and hopefully she can have an impact on doing some good in the country, so I'm looking towards seeing that. But I've been honored to serve in the 2.5 years with the county. I had no idea what to expect. I'd never run for anything. I've just run businesses. I have employees and pay payroll and live my life that way. But when I got in there, unfortunately, I'm here to report to you that a lot of the things that you hear are true. There's so many issues, especially with fiscal responsibility, with just budgeting overall, all sorts of things. So I'll give you a real quick history. So I came in and then discovered very quickly there wasn't a really strong game plan. In business, we like to say, hey, we need a strategic plan, and we look for a return on investment. We see how much money do we have, and that's how much money we can spend. And if we don't have that money, we don't spend it, because what happens then? The business goes bankrupt, right? So we take a look at, I've been really taking a hard look at, especially, only Sutter County government right now, but from that aspect, what's our investment, what's going to be our return on investment, what kind of budget we work on, and how does that work? When we came in, we had a county administrator who felt he was kind of powerful, I guess is the word, and would spend kind of whatever he wanted, and there was not a lot of a hold on that. And you heard the story, I believe, from Nate Black when he was here about some extra expenditures and things. So one of the first things we had to do was make sure that he was removed from his position. So we took care of that pretty quickly. And then we went to work looking for the right county administrator. Now, it was a long process. This county was without a full-time county administrator for over a year. I think it was closer to a year and a half. I don't remember the exact time. It was about a year and a half. So it was about a year and a half. Well, I was charged, along with Supervisor Whitaker, to take a look at the recruitment process. Well, at first we thought, okay, we're going to try to find somebody to come in to the county, and hopefully there's somebody out there that exists, and we can find somebody to bring them. Well, we looked at the job description for the county administrator, and the last time that job description was looked at was 1 month after I was born, and that was in June of 1966. And so that was the last time. Now, I don't know how many county administrators we've had since 1966, but I can tell you it's probably more than 5. And in that time period, we never revamped a job description. So any of you who have had employees or a business, you know that you need to reanalyze and relook at the job description of your employees. You need to look at what are their responsibilities. You need to look at the organizational chart. You have to take you have to keep analyzing that. You never stop doing that. So we took the approach of redoing the complete job description based on feedback from surrounding counties, but not only that, we wanted to take a look at it from a point of accountability. We wanted to make sure that we look at what expectations, clear expectations of not just the county supervisors, but the people that we represent are. So we stepped back and we took the time and actually went through a strategic planning process. It was, some people say, well, that's a waste of time. You sit around planning and doing these things. But for me, if anyone says that, it's only because you haven't done it before or you don't understand the process. The strategic planning is critical because we need a plan for the future. In order to do that, we came back, brought together all the key players, basically the county administrators and and citizens, and talked about where is it we want to go, what kind of person do we want to hire in this position. And then we laid out a new plan, including a new job description, and then began a recruitment process. And then we ended up with a very strong recruit, and this was a long time. Now, a lot of you heard about our recruit's background and that he utilized an email to raise some funds for his kids' baseball team, and he did. He did do that. But we are holding him in complete check. We're holding him accountable. We're making sure that he's progressing to a strategic plan that we're laying out, and we continue as we're moving forward to lay out a very strong plan for the county, a lot of it encompassing many of the areas that Supervisor Conant just mentioned to you. And that has to deal with fiscal responsibility first. And we do have all of these other problems. I mean, I didn't even realize I lived downstream from a dam until this whole thing happened in February, and that was a very frightening experience for everybody. I went home and told my wife she needed to evacuate, and we were one of the families who was completely unprepared. Within minutes of that evacuation, Assemblyman Gallagher gave me a call and he said, hey, what's going on? What's Sutter County doing? What are we doing? It was just a lot of panic. My wife was 30 minutes down the road before she realized that I wasn't coming with her. I was staying here at the Emergency Operations Center in Sutter County. So, I mean, we have a lot of those issues, but until we deal with the fiscal responsibility, we're not going to be able to address those other issues. So right now, tackling a strong budget, looking to the future, the supervisors are starting to work on laying out the strategic plan where we're holding the CAO accountable to a budget that includes efficiency, less government, which I love your sign because that's what we need to do. We need to bring down less government. We don't need 1,000 employees to run a small county like this. We just don't need that many employees. We're not saying let's go chop all the employees, so I don't want to offend if there's any county employees here, that's not the issue. But we're saying let's look to efficiency, let's trim the fat, let's get better at what we're doing. Let's look at what Supervisor Matt or Conant mentioned. We're going to look at the unfunded liability, but we're not only going to look at it. In the last year, we've taken steps to it, and you've heard already from Nate Black. The unfunded liability is here. We took a $5 million step here, but we still got to go here. So, we're looking for solutions. We have a long way to go, but we can't continue going the same direction. What's the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result? Well, that's what's been happening. Same job description since 1966, same modus operandi, same way that we run the county. We can't do that. We need to change. It's our responsibility. I feel a duty in this position, not only to you as the citizens of the county, but I feel a duty to my children. I also feel a duty to my grandchildren who aren't even born yet. And we have these discussions and I say, how do you make decisions? Well, what I do is look to the future and say 50 years from now when my grandkids are around, well, hopefully they're around sooner, or I'm going to be upset with my kids, but when my grandkids are around, if they're saying, hey, Grandpa was an idiot, he made a dumb mistake, or he made a stupid decision that bankrupted the county, or he couldn't figure out how to move the homeless off of our riverfront, which is one of the most beautiful things we have here, a feature that we should be utilizing all the time. then I will feel like I completely failed in that position. And that, you are a lot of pressure on me as a supervisor and as your representative, but my grandkids to come are way more pressure than all of you. So I just want you to know that, how the decision process occurs. Some of the things that we're working on along, I touched on it, and Supervisor Conant also mentioned, but working with DWR, this is a big deal. None of us should be standing down on this for any reason at all. We did a tour of the river last week, and I've done several tours of the dam and multiple other tours of the river as well. This thing is not over by any means. This dam, just because of sheer negligence by the state, with your tax dollars, this dam was not monitored. This dam, there was nobody held accountable to taking care of the dam the way that it was supposed to be taken care of. The dam almost broke. That caused millions of dollars of costs to our counties together, combined. I mean, they can share the cost for Yuba County. But I know many small business people who are my friends, and they lost so much money from even think about the people selling chocolate at Valentine's Day or flowers. Those completely destroyed. But beyond that, the fishing industry, agriculture. Supervisor Conant, you mentioned preserving agriculture. If we don't preserve the structural soundness of our rivers or the dams, we can't preserve agriculture. So the cost of this county, it's huge. So we need to not stand down, we need to be strong, we need to support Assemblyman Gallagher, especially in this fight, and Senator Nielsen, making sure that we're staying in the forefront and keeping a loud voice on this. On the rivers, if you haven't been on the rivers, guys, there was a quote that I heard the other day that we have 50 years of damage on our rivers from the erosion that occurred in 1 year. 50 years, okay? I'm 50, so my whole life of damage was done in 1 year of those rivers. As you're on the boat going down the river, which we were a couple of days ago, you look along the riverbanks and you can see the erosion just falling into the river as you're moving along the riverbanks. Okay, I don't know about you, but that scares the crap out of me. My time up? Said I haven't been.
No,
sorry, I can go on forever.
I'm the timekeeper over here.
Is my time up?
No.
Okay, sorry. So you get me wound up and I'm just getting started. And that's only one topic, but geez, there's so many other things that we work on. I mean, it's constant. So we got to stay on the rivers. We got to stay on the DWR. We can't back down. We're committed to doing that. Whatever we can do at the state level, we want to do that. There are many other issues facing the county right now. We're working through the strategic planning process to continue along to address a lot of those issues. We have marijuana grows.
Andy, your mic's on.
Andy, turn your mic off.
There you go.
These Yuba County guys are really disruptive. I'm going to tell you, we try to work closely with the city of Yuba City, but I don't know about these guys.
Who's bringing lunch? Who's bringing lunch here?
Sniffing the pot.
You know that, right?
Let's go ahead.
Okay, are we done?
One more minute, you're done.
1 more minute, all right. Well, let me do a quick rundown then. So besides long-term strategies and planning, looking at a structured, balanced budget and making sure that we attack this unfunded liability head on. That's what we've already done, and we plan on continuing to do so. We have the homelessness issue, lots of question marks on how we're going to deal with that. For me, I hate to sound cold, but it's time for them to move off the river. It's time for them to be not living there at our expense. I think we're compassionate.
15 seconds.
We're going to offer as many services as we can to the homeless, but it's time for them to move from one of our greatest features that we have here. So 15 seconds. What else do you want to hear? Anything you want to hear about, ask me the questions. I've got
2
such a long
seconds.
list because we do it.
1 second.
That's it. All right, thank you. I'm going to disrupt this guy all the time.
He's used to being
You just make me
disrupted.
so glad I'm in Yuba County.
Let me do the introduction here of who's very proud to be in Yuba County. That's Andy Vasquez, Yuba County Supervisor, District 1.
sure seems like a long 10 minutes, but I'm not used to that 10-minute situation. Anyhow, I figured out a cure for the homeless. We let them swim in Ellis Lake. That'll take care of the homeless right there. And I think that was a good idea, whoever came up with that one. But listening to Supervisor Flores, I'm certainly glad we have the staff that we have and the management that we have over in Yuba County. We have additional duties. We are on the Yuba County Water Agency. I've been on there for 8 years now. And Kurt Akins. And we're getting feedback center somewhere. You want to turn this down or what? Anyhow, we have Kurt Akins who takes care of the, it's close to the speaker, that's what it is. Anyhow, we have Kurt Akins, who has done a great job. We're the only county in California, and I think in the United States pretty much, that owns its own dam and power plant. We looked at the situation in Oroville, and there was a statement that was made in an article that says California Department of Water Resources came under, let's see, design flaws, construction shortcomings, and maintenance errors caused the Oroville Dam spillway to break apart in February. We have a maintenance plan. They talk about their drains were full, or roots in their drains. We got through spending $1 million on drain cleaning on Bullard's Bar. We just put in a new control panel there that we've taken over the sale of all the energy that's generated there. The after-action report on Scott Bryan from OES, we're not changing anything. We did very well. We actually moved from Yuba County to Grass Valley and back without a lapse in coverage or in response to people's questions. There's $500 million, they figured that the cost of repairing Oroville Dam. We spent $500 million in levees. We got 22 miles of levees. You go over the 10th Street Bridge, you'll see that on the Feather River, on the Yuba City side, they're armoring their levees. They're putting a little riprap there and trying to beef up the levee system on the Yuba City side. It's not even at the toe of our levees yet. So if anything ever happens at Oroville Dam, the one thing that kind of slows things down a little bit is the fact it's going to take 6 to 8 hours, even if it breaks, to get down here. And this wall of water that people think is going to happen is not really going to happen. As it comes down, the banks of the river widen, it spreads, it slows, the velocity comes way down when you go that far from the dam. The people that they didn't care about are the people in Oroville, because you got 15,000+ people that they didn't care about. And the Department of Water Resources has made every excuse under the sun as to why all this stuff happened, and it happened because of bad management. When you talk about Sutter County, we've got Bendorf as our CAO. He's been there since I've been there. You talk about strategic planning. For Yuba County Water Agency, we got $400 million worth of projects in our strategic plans for Yuba County. We've gone from 1,600 people to 900 people as far as our county government. And our guys are lean and mean. We've got a very good department heads. We've got people that work very hard, and I am extremely proud of Yuba County, as he says, and for good reason, because Mr. Bendorf has leadership classes every year for department heads to where we all work together toward the same goal. We're going to go here a little bit about the dam. Let's see. Department of Water Resources, I'm glad Mr. Paul Preston is sitting over there, because I think he understands that those who created the problem can't solve the problem. And the question is, are we going to push hard enough to get the Department of Water Resources to roll some heads? The head of the Department of Water Resources needs to go. One of the things we talked with the state of Jefferson down here, we have a lack of representation. When you have a senator that covers 6 counties, we don't count. And any of you think that you count? You don't. You don't count in Sacramento, you don't count in the state of California. The nice things that I'm seeing here is that I grew up in the San Fernando Valley when it was actually orange groves. I grew up in Santa Ana when it was orange groves. El Toro was surrounded by orange groves. We're seeing the same thing here. I'm glad Sutter Point is back on track, because in 1967, Larry Monta and I, 87, I'll get the dates right, yeah. But in 87, when it got defeated, it would have been a good thing then for us to grow in that direction. I'm glad to see we're doing it, because California is about 500,000 homes behind the needs. So anyhow, growth is going to happen. I'm pretty happy with Yuba County management. I don't really see us we're going to improve it, because even if Oroville Dam goes, all you have to do is get to Beale Road and just the other side of Walmart, and it'll all be dry. We have, like I said, 22 miles of levees that we spent $500 million on. I'm going to let Mr. Fletcher take over from here.
Thank you, Andy. Yuba County Supervisor, District 5, Randy Fletcher.
Thank you for the invitation to be here this evening. So the advantage of being in the 5th District is I generally get to speak last. And with this panel, it's probably an advantage. I grew up in Sutter County and moved to Yuba County, and what I heard is we have a lot in common. No matter, you get 2 counties, you got 2 different governments, but right down the line, everything they've talked about is an issue in Yuba County as well. When I ran for this as a businessman, same as Supervisor Flores, you find that it's kind of a shock for the first couple of years. What goes on and how does this function? And getting the right people in position in Yuba County has been a priority for me. Taking a look at no growth, but becoming a lot more efficient. And I think you have to do that. When you run a budget, your household, our government, there's only so much money to go around. We don't print it, we just have to manage it. And you have to manage as most efficiently as you can. So we watch that as closely as possible. When Dan talked about you may not be able to grow in any given department, it isn't that we fire people unless we have to. We just don't, we eliminate by attrition. And then find better ways to run government. And I think Yuba County has done an exceptional job so far. I watch very closely, work with some of the department heads to make sure that they're on top of their teams. And you really have to build a team and have team effort to accomplish things. And I am very proud of what Yuba County has done this last couple of years in paying close attention. We have some really good staff that are on top of it. So let me give you kind of an idea. Again, being a supervisor, I didn't have a clue what I was stepping into. And by the way, our whole board here adds up to less than what Andy's experience is. You add up our 3 years and we don't have what Andy has. So Andy, thank you for sticking it out, because that's what it takes. You got to hang in here to use your experience and accomplish things over several terms. I used to think, well, one term is adequate. I have a little bit different perception now. That 4 years has gone, 2.5 has gone quickly. 4 is going to be here tomorrow, and there are still things on my plate that need to be done. So I'll be looking at the future here in the next 1.5 years to say, do I need to continue this or not, to try to get some things done. One of the things that was brought up briefly on the podium here was there's no board meeting next week that Yuba County has canceled. Just to let you know, we've made some modifications internally that we're now in our scheduling meeting every other week. So 2 meetings a month rather than a meeting every week. One of the primary reasons for that was efficiency. When we put together a board meeting, guess who has to show up at all of those board meetings? Staff, department heads. So they have to prepare, shut down, come sit and listen to us talk for a few hours. Much more efficient if we can put more information on any given day. The other week, so Tuesday, when we're not having a board meeting, we're actually having the Yuba County Water Agency meetings. And the Yuba County Water Agency is a new company. Been around for 50 years, but it was run by PG&E. It's only been in existence, being run by Yuba County, 1 year. We've gone from 4 employees to almost 70 employees over the last few years. They all had to be brought up to speed, trained, and we have to run a very large business. So it creates a lot of time. We have committees on a regular basis. Tomorrow, we're tied up most all day tomorrow on meetings, closed session, and then committee meetings. And the same thing happens with the Yuba County Board of Supervisors. I'm on roughly 13 boards. I think Andy had volunteered for 15, and I cut him back a couple. And then we're alternates on other boards. And that's where we spend our time. I put in about 50 to 60 hours a week. Running a business, fortunately, I've been able to turn it over to staff. I see my wife sometimes in the morning, coming, going. This is a routine that is much greater than I ever anticipated. But you do get attached to it in terms of, I've got things to accomplish. And you have to go to this extra effort to really understand how does government work, which is quite a bit different than the private sector. I think there's a president that might be learning that as we speak. It takes time to build this and work with your employees. So I still have a couple of minutes. I'll just give I think, a couple of minutes. Let me give you an overview of some of the things that I'm working on. Roads in Yuba County. We have 650 plus miles of roads. The 5th district is larger than the other 4 districts combined. So most of our roads are in bad shape. We have an estimate of about $150 million it would take to fix our roads. We don't have 150. Our budget is less than $2 million. So it's a challenge. I've been working on multiple ways to come up with dollars to fix the worst areas. So currently, as an example, in the Camptonville area, I've met with the U.S. Forest Service. They're going to be assisting us. The North Central County Consortium, they're going to be working with us. OES, particularly as a result of this last couple of months in storms, they're going to be working with us. The timber industry will be working with us. And we're going to try to at least address some of the major arteries that are in the foothills. Then you deal with some of the private roads that are assigned to the county, And I've been working with different communities that they're actually willing to put up some of their dollars out of their pockets in addition to their tax base to improve their roads. So I think you have to look at, you have to be creative and say, what's it going to take to accomplish this? We're not miracle workers and we can't print money. So you've got to work on each one of these issues individually with different community members to try to find solutions. Highway 70, they're going to be working on. There's some issues that are happening up there. We have some minor flooding going on in District 10. And I'm working with the levee districts, the community, and the Yuba County Water Agency. So you've got to find dollars in multiple locations to solve problems. Some of that may actually come from the general fund, but very little. And then of course the private sector has to step up as well. I'm on the board of directors for Sierra Nevada Conservancy. And through that program, understand again, 5th District has the floods and the fires. I've got the 5,000 foot elevation and the 62 foot elevation to deal with. But what I've found in the Sierra Nevada Conservancy, which is about a 12-year-old program, that they're a portal to pass money through from multiple organizations. And again, we've met with the private sector. It's called the Public-Private Partnership. And wherever we can match up money to help our foothills, I'm in it. Unfortunately, our history has shown we go through floods, and what's the next thing that hits in our foothills? The fire. So we've got to be ready when that happens. And our watershed, our tree mortality, in case anybody's not watching this, it started down south, the beetles, the dead trees. We've gone over 100 million dead trees now. They're not in Yuba County, not that many, but we do have them. I've flown over the area. I have a record of how many trees are dying, and we've got an issue, and we're trying to address that situation. Sexual violent predator. Is there an issue? It continues. We're looking at alternatives and what we can do. However, when you're dealing with a judge, they have full power. And so we're limited in what we can do. Brownsville, working with them on their community center. Communications in the foothills. We're hoping that a possibility that we may be able to actually buy that building from BLM and help them with their finances. All of these projects that I've mentioned, by the way, you know, you take on a project and you think, oh, it'll be done next week. Well, a year later, 18 months later, we're still working on this stuff. Government works slow, the federal government is unbelievably slow. State government, at least I can get in a car and drive to Sacramento. I put on about 20,000 miles a year the last 2 years, from Camptonville to Sacramento and back. Not unusual that I might make 2 trips in any given day. You rack up a lot of miles doing this. As Supervisor Flores mentioned, the Feather River, the damage that's been done, but there are some opportunities. I think we had a great meeting, by the way, out there, where 4 boats loaded with politicians and government stopped on the river, and we had a discussion for about a half an hour. I found it to be very fruitful, and they were interested. Fish and Wildlife, DWR, Nielsen, Gallagher. It turned out to be a really good meeting, and I think there will be some follow-up meetings as a result of that encounter. The Aqua, I'm a Region 2 representative that talks about water and what Aqua is doing. They're a statewide organization that watches out for water, state laws, regulations, what's coming down the pike. Both Andy and I were at meetings in Monterey this last week. One of the concerns that I went to one particular class, they talked about the potential that the state of California is looking at taxing all of us to improve water quality. It's for the disadvantaged communities, and who's going to pay for it? Well, their attitude was, we subsidize for rent, phones, all kinds of subsidies. We ought to do it for water. I have to tell you, I don't normally lose my cool, but I had to get up and walk out of that meeting. I just couldn't handle it anymore. There will be more meetings. Aqua is opposed to this, and we'll be looking at that in the near future. But there's some regulation coming. That's kind of the state and what they do.
30 seconds.
I'll wrap up there. Thanks.
Thank you. We're going to go ahead and take your questions now. So if you have any questions, you want to come to the microphones and ask any of the supervisors questions. And remember, Larry has the bat. I mean, I don't know what that's all about. Danielle has the gun over there. We're going to be raffling at the end of tonight's presentation, the AR-15. It's the new California legal one. And I know what she's going to do right now. She's going to take it out of the case and hold it over her head. And a little bit later, if you want to buy tickets to the raffle, we have some of those too. But this is what the new thing looks like here. It's not being locked and loaded. Now, come on. She's a master at weapons, of course, and military trained, I might add.
And you just verified it's all clear. Just so you know.
So that's what they look like now. It's kind of interesting. They have additional features that the other ARs don't have, which is actually an even better feature, by the way. I won't announce what it is because they'll probably want to change the legislation, or introduce some legislation in Sacramento to change it. We don't want that to happen. It's stronger rubber band with the California gun, that's correct. Thank you, Danielle. Okay, we're going to go ahead and we'll start. I guess that's the north side down there, isn't it? I think it is. Yes, sir, go ahead.
Thank you for being here. My name is Tom Dodge. I grew up near Live Oak. I spent the last 50 years running business in Southern California. I am impressed at the cavalier attitude that people have in Southern California about our water problems. Having recently returned to the old farm, I look at the situation, it looks to me like it's ripe for a class action suit. We've got broad ranges of people that have been damaged by the comedy of incompetence that we've seen up there. And it isn't just recent, I'm aware of stuff in the past that's the same incompetence. So the first one is, has anybody considered a class action? The second one is, what leverage do you have directly? How much can you control what solutions are proposed and will be acted on? For instance, some of my engineering friends have said, we should just build a complete second spillway. Then if they're incompetent, we're still okay. I look forward to your answers.
I can tackle a little bit of that. I know I've been working closely with Assemblyman Gallagher, and as we both mentioned, we were on a boat with him the other day, and he's been doing a lot of follow-up, including writing some legislation to make sure that DWR is held accountable. How we get that passed, I'm not sure, but to your point of a class action suit, there has been some consideration and some discussion. That's all I know as far as right now. I like the idea. I think we should all get together and file a big suit. I don't know how much effect it has on the state or how that actually works, but I believe that it is time for something like that, some sort of legal action, especially with what has happened here. There's no question. As far as the second part of your question, what direct impact can we have? That was part of the long discussion, and Supervisor Fletcher can elaborate a little more on this. But we're sitting in the boat watching the river erode right in front of us with DWR with us. They're answering questions, and yes, we did have a really good conversation. But one of the many ideas, but one that all of you have thought about in the past is the idea of dredging. Right, so let's dredge, right? Well, that turns out to be a really bad word in the state for some reason, you know, even though all of the stuff that came off the spillway fell into the river and harmed our fish and harmed our, river altogether. We can't go in and dredge because of legislative or because of all the regulations the way they are and the impacts of the environmentalists that are out there and the rules we have in the state. I mean, it's logical that we should go out there and do that. So it was brought up to DWR while we were there. So, well, what if we just came out and started a dredging process? We've been told by private companies, a couple in particular, that they would go out and do it for free. And what they would do is just keep some of the minerals. There's gold and nickel and copper and all sorts of things in the river. And they'd be willing to do that and go dredge. Well, we were told that, well, that could take years even to get past. And there's even a plan for the southern part of the river that's been in place for a really long time for dredging. And it actually was approved. But then we're told, well, there's no money to actually implement that plan, and it would still have to go through the environmental rules to get that done. So that's just one example. I mean, there's been a lot of suggestions in terms of building an additional spillway. It turns out that the original plans for that dam, that there was actually a secondary dam that was supposed to be built that never had happened. So there's all of these different things that we wish we could do, but as far in terms of impact, the only thing I can see right now is that we just keep on keeping on, that we cannot back down from this. We need to keep raising our voice, we need to keep showing up, and we need to keep remembering what happened to us a few months ago and just keep pressing for some results. That's my opinion.
Weigh in now. Okay, first of all, I'd just like to say that DWR, Department of Dam Safety, didn't do one single thing right up there. Now it's better. They didn't do one thing right. First of all, let's start with your second question. We can weigh in. The County of Sutter also did a letter asking support of James Gallagher and Nelson's co-bill to make them be responsible, and I think there will be a class action lawsuit. I think it will be filed by growers up and down the river who lost tremendous assets. And not only the assets, but let's go from the beginning. Let's start at the beginning now that I answered that question. They didn't do one thing right. At one point, all 4 methods of removing water from that dam were broken. One of them was broken in '97 and wasn't repaired. Number two,
Can you turn the mic on? I think you got a problem with
number two, the DWR couldn't even estimate that the spillway would overtop. I figured on Friday night it would overtop. I was only out by 6 hours. Friday morning, it still said it wasn't going to overtop. That emergency spillway was never armored because they never really figured they'd ever use it. But the maintenance was never done on that main spillway. There should have been maintenance done on a regular basis. It wasn't even walked, I understand, and no inspection in 2016, and it wasn't walked in 2015. That should be walked at least once a year, tamped, x-rayed, whatever you want to do, but it needs to be inspected, and it wasn't done. And then they decided, okay, we're just going to drop the water levels in the river. I was afraid we were going to lose levees, because when you drop the water so quickly, all the weight of that water is up against the levee, and it's impenetrated into that levee, and it's impenetrated into the riverbank as well. When you drop that flow instantly, all that water just sloughs the whole section of levee off. We were very fortunate we didn't lose any levees. But the whole thing has been one fiasco after another, and this community has lost a tremendous amount of money, and I didn't even go into what Dan Flores said earlier, Supervisor Flores, but how would you like to own a candy store or a card shop or a flower shop and lost your Valentine's sales? I mean, that's just one example. Think of lost payroll of all the time that nobody got paid for working and lost sales from all those businesses and he was able to shut down. They still gotta pay their rent. They still gotta pay for their overhead and everything else, but now they didn't make those sales for those days. Okay, thank you.
Any more comments over there? No. Okay, next question.
Okay, complete change of idea. First, I want to thank both counties for taking a stand on the sanctuary city. I think that was extraordinarily important. And I don't know if the letters have been made published or if they've been written yet. I sure would like to see them. Something else?
Make sure that you have that, yeah.
Oh, that would be great. I'd like to know what's being said, and especially so we can support you in supporting us.
Great, I know the letter's been sent, so we should be able to get you a copy pretty easily, and we'll give it to you for sure.
My next issue that I would like you to, both counties, to take into consideration and place a complaint with the state is a new AB 424 that McCarty's coming up with, which is totally disallowing school districts to allow teachers or staff that are certified CCW carriers to have any weapon on school. We are in great danger in many ways. I worked at Marysville during the Lyndhurst thing. I worked at Richmond High School and saw what was going on there. I knew what happened when there was the threat that was going on here. It's dangerous, and we need to find some way to encourage protection for our students, not take it all away and make us into big targets. So please, come up with some consideration in some way to address that issue so they know that the citizenry doesn't like it. It's bad enough the bill they already passed, but if they get this one in too, we're sitting ducks.
I couldn't agree more. Look at all the school shootings that have happened in this country in the last 10, 15 years. It's not a coincidence that these are gun-free zones. It's not a coincidence that they're terrorists. These people that come in, and they may be kids, they may be adults, but they're still terrorists. That strike terror and fear on an unarmed, where they know they're unarmed, society, and know that they can kill somebody just because they want to. And the only protection that those people have is either a law enforcement officer that happens to be on campus or is on campus, and or a teacher that is carrying a concealed weapon. I couldn't agree more. And my wife's a school teacher. She does not carry, but she's working on that. Thank you.
It gets back to representation. We don't have the representation to really do anything. Randy's a retired Yuba City PD. I spent 5 years as a reserve deputy, and we're sitting ducks in this area because of Los Angeles, San Francisco, and the other areas that write the laws. So again, if you can get involved with the state of Jefferson in their lawsuit, if you can help support them, the first thing they're going to try and do is get representation reevaluated and hopefully adjusted in a more fair way. Because when we had a senator for each county, we were a half-bad state. But once that law was passed and we lost all our representation, we unfortunately don't count. And I know what you mean, but there's a reason it's called concealed, it's because they don't know you have it. Until it's too late.
Let me add to that just a bit. You know, you have a great force sitting right here in this community, and I would encourage you to actually jump in your car in small numbers if need be, and drive to Sacramento, go through security, knock on legislative doors and let them know what you think. We do the same thing. I know Dan goes down, I go down, Andy goes down when he can. I don't know if Matt's had a chance yet. We do meet with Garamendi and Nielsen, Gallagher. Actually, they're very supportive to what you're talking about. It's the other legislators that don't get the opportunities to actually hear from the public and your concerns. And it is a value that is missed. I see it down there, that there's not enough people that bring the message to Sacramento. So consider it a day, go shopping, but take a couple of hours, go through security, don't take a gun to the state capitol, you won't get through. But you can still go down and talk. So consider doing that. There's a value that's high end.
I'm just going to say a couple of things on this. I never quote our chairman of the board very much for the Board of Supervisors, but you know, this AB 424, his words, that's stupid. I mean, this is a really stupid idea to not allow teachers to be able to defend themselves and, you know, talk about lawsuits. I think there's a constitutional right to be able to carry those arms, and just this is a public place. And I don't see why they wouldn't be able to allow to do that. So yes, we'd be supportive and to support my fellow supervisors here. I think if we could get a letter from you as a group, along with representation, as Supervisor Fletcher mentioned, but detailing what you're talking about with the law that's being presented, and make sure to send that directly to us, then we will. I know that we would be supportive of that. So.
I volunteer a part of that. I have to tell you, having been a classroom teacher for 40 years, what they're teaching in Yuba City right now, put something over the window on the door and pull out the porta potty. They are supplied to every classroom. That's the training we get.
Far end of us. The gentleman with the hat.
Can you hear me all right? I'm going to throw my back out and getting down to this thing.
Raise it up.
Tilt it up a little bit. It tilts.
There you go.
Now, Larry Green, raised up in Hamilton, resident of Yuba City. Had a lot of fun during the evacuation. I want to have a kind of a lighthearted thing here for a moment, and the other points are excellent, and I concur. Anyway, we spent about 2 hours leaving right about where Bogue Road is, going north on 20 over to the west end of 10th Street Bridge, when we gave up and decided that we'd go home and drown rather than sit in the car in the parking lot someplace. And so I say, with as much humor as I can muster, a couple of days later in the paper I see all the big shots, you guys slapping each other in the back, what a great deal we've done and how everybody pulled together. I don't know, it was kind of a low pressure chaos, and I don't know if anybody could handle anything. There were trailers and cars and trucks going every which direction, and
Jam.
no offense. I wanted to come back and pound on what's left of the spillway up there. I've been to 2 of the DWR meetings, one in Marysville, one in Yuba City, and I thought it was kind of interesting, and I raised an issue about construction. Everybody is an expert. The designers are all expert, qualified graduates, all experienced. Contractors are all expert, they've all got experience, they're all state approved or feds, whatever the project is. Building inspectors, they're all trained, they're all experts, they're all experienced. And nothing can be built over much bigger than a doghouse. It's got to have inspection. And so, as you all know, you get the drawings, and you got all the specs and everything the way it has to be. The low bidder gets the job, and away we go. But it's supposed to be to those specs. And I was quoting at one of the meetings at Maryville, I quoted the article in the paper. Some professor said it was a shoddy project up there, and how did that get by? And DWR folks said, well, that was Professor Gundelfinger, or whatever his name was, and he never made an actual on-the-site investigation, so he didn't, the basic thing was he didn't really know what he was talking about. Well, I don't know, so that blew me out of the water there. But then I related an account, I can't prove it. It was another very large project, not too far from here, and a good friend of mine, older man, older than I am, and he was an inspector, experienced, and he was on this project. And in the early parts of the project, the contractor was a big shot, big deal outfit, started fudging on the specs. And he said, well, I can't sign off on this. Well, they hassled him and went on a while, and finally said, I cannot sign on this, it's not according to the specs. And they suggested that he probably ought to adjust his attitude a little, or he might have a wreck down in that canyon. So it shook him up a little. And he wasn't grandstanding when he told me this, it was just he and I talking. Well, when the cement, concrete work and rebar and all of that got started, he said, I cannot sign this stuff off. That's where I heard of slump factor with concrete. He said the slump factor, it's no good, it's too weak, it doesn't have enough cement in it. The rebar is not only smaller, the amount of it is cut way back, and he said, this is no good, I can't sign it. And the employer said, well, you probably ought to think about that, you're going to end up under a couple of yards of concrete. The guy was absolutely scared to death. I can't prove it, he's dead. But he quit. And the project went ahead and got finished. And so I guess the next inspector trained and all of that. I guess he didn't see some of those things. And the other, if overpasses go down, and insurance looks at it and says, well, there's not enough rebar, sloppy cement wasn't correct, but no heads roll. No department heads roll. No outfit that puts up these inspectors roll. So, of course, DWR didn't have an answer for that, and I said, how are you going to guarantee the new project? Well, they couldn't. It seems to me it's the norm, not the exception, that work does not get done according to specs. It just kind of saying, how do I know if somebody didn't tell me? And I believe that man, if he hadn't told me, I'd have thought, hey, everything's specs, you got inspectors. This is all state approved, everything is qualified. I guess not. And the building that I moved into wasn't mine, but two-story cement job. The inspector never got on the roof. It was 2 stories high. He's an older guy, and he liked his adult beverages, and he was afraid to go up the ladder. And he would get a guy that came down off the roof and say, now, do you put all that flashing in? It was a flat roof. You put all that flashing in there and get everything tarred up? Oh, yeah. He signed it off. The first heavy rain we had, an inch of water in the place. Roll-up doors didn't work, other things didn't function, power circuitry wasn't working, but it got signed off by an inspector. The owner had to get a crew in there and fix the roof and do all this patch up, and yet nothing ever happens. I have zip confidence in the feds, but more closely the state, about doing anything right with buku millions and millions of our tax dollars.
15 seconds on the question.
So I guess I'm venting more than I'm questioning. How are you ever going to prove that we're going to have the new construction correct? I don't have any confidence in it at all. It's going to, all of this smoke settles, going to go right on just like always.
Thank you.
You're not going to accomplish it with the management that we have now.
Nope, not Jerry Brown.
You've got to change management, Department of Water Resources.
Any other comments on that?
Yeah. I'd just like to say that, the spillway and the dam held up and performed pretty well for almost 60 years. I think when the dust settles, there is going to be some design flaws they're going to find. But I think that it functioned correctly for 60 years. I think it probably was not up to today's standards, but it probably was up to the 60s and 50s standards. But I think the problem, what we're going to find is lack of maintenance. That project is 60 years old almost. I farm, I have a lot of infrastructure on my ranch. None of my ranch's infrastructure is 60-year-old that we haven't improved over the years, but the state hasn't done anything. So that's the problem, I think. I think the problem is they don't do maintenance, they don't do upgrades, they don't do what needs to be done to make that thing function correctly.
One more, and then you break it quick, and then go down.
This is just a statement I saw at the Yuba City meeting, DWR meeting. An acquaintance of mine brought in a piece of the concrete from the spillway. It was not 12 inches deep. It had no crushed aggregate. You could scrape the concrete with your fingernail. I'm not exaggerating. You could scrape it with your fingernail. It just crumbled out of there.
Thank you.
And Larry, I do believe you had valid concerns here. What I've seen from James Gallagher is he is really working this. I don't believe that he's going to let go anytime soon. This seems to be one of the issues that he's going to latch onto and pay close attention through the whole process. Jim Nielsen, same thing, but I'll tell you the advantage with James is his age and his energy level, and I think he's on top of it. So pay close attention. Let's see what James does. I think he's very bright, pays close attention.
Karen?
Okay, I'm going to have a question then. Paul said I could say what I was going to announce, but Dan, sorry I interrupted you. What was you going to say before I interrupted you about Andy's mic being on? About the illegal grows or the grows in Sutter County? I was wondering about what you was going to say, and then I needed to know about both the Yuba County and Sutter County, what's going on.
So you'd like maybe a status of where we are with the cannabis policies? Yeah, I think I was going to say that our cannabis policy is holding pretty strong. We did hire enforcement for the first time ever, so we always had a no outdoor growth policy in the county, but we had nobody to enforce the rule. So for me, that's pretty ridiculous. It's sort of like having a border and having no enforcement. But for us, that was a very big priority. It did cost taxpayer dollars. However, we think that from a social standpoint, at this point, our policy is holding up pretty strong with an ordinance. There's still several hundred illegal grows of cannabis, though, in the county, and those need to be tackled. And there's a lot of new interest in the county with several companies coming in after Prop 64, and then now there's some other changes that are occurring. So I think there's still a living policy. There are a lot of companies who have spoken to us even just recently who want to do indoor grows and then ship the cannabis outside of the county without any type of distribution within the county. So all of these things are coming at us right now in terms of just being able to look at to see if there would be any consideration or not. In Yuba County, they've got indoor grows and they do dispensaries in Marysville, but we haven't done that, and we have a strong policy against cannabis at this point.
Okay, so I wanted to tell you what happened today. I got up at 5 o'clock, 4 o'clock, and I caught the 5 o'clock bus down to Sacramento. Let me turn around so I don't avoid the people over here. I went on our city bus down to the Capitol because I've been sick for a while. I haven't made it this year. Okay, but this is my third year down there. And this year, I was more aggressive than I've been. In one day, I got a lot done. And by the way, Randy, you're right. We need to go down and voice our opinions. That's what they want to hear, is us. Because when I was down there, I went to one of my favorite coffee shops. And I was getting my coffee and my muffin. And these Mexican people showed up. And I was asking them what was they down there for. And they told me they were there for SB 54. And I said, well, what's that bill? I forgot. And they told me that they're there in full force, hundreds of them, down in Sacramento to the Capitol and around Sacramento to try to get their way because they don't want the police to intervene with ICE. And that's what that bill is, to stop the police from doing their job. And I told her, I said, why are you wanting us taxpayers from California to pay for you guys to be being here to do things illegally? And she says, well, that's democracy. And it was one of her words. And I told her, I said, well, your democracy, why don't you take it back to your country and force them to do what you're trying to force us to do and take our money. And so she got mad at me and walked away. But I told her, I said, I'm going to go to the Capitol and I'm going to tell the senators and assembly, I'm a Californian. I'm an American. I do not want that. I said, you guys take your argument back to your country because you're trying to argue here. Take it home and do that. But my issue was the pot issue more. But that was one of the issues with SB 54 I found out. They want to go ahead and be able to do their drug activity here and not have the police involved. So please, please, call your senators, assembly, up in federal level. Let them know that you do not want this tolerated because they are in full force, and I'm not talking about just 10 or 15 of them. There was so many around the Capitol today. They were in and out the Capitol. They had people all over Sacramento. And I was walking the streets of Sacramento to catch the bus. I went and walked around. But I was at the Capitol all day long. And there is over 70 bills now for pot. Over 70. I brought the list home, more of them, and finding out more about it, and I'll let everybody know later after I get the time to really figure it out. But the CBDs, they're trying to do, that's the pot issue. They are trying to make it to where kids will not, it won't be accessible to kids. They are trying to go and make it more better so it's not where kids look at it and say, hey, I want this, or get access to it, because I talked to a lot of senators in assembly today, and which, by the way, the Senate side, they're closed down. They're doing construction because something happened there. So they're doing construction. They only have the assembly side open right now. But I thought I'd tell you, you guys need to go ahead and voice your opinion, take the time out, catch our city bus. It doesn't take that much. And the bus at J and 11th you can get off is just a block and a half to the Capitol. And you can have a wonderful time there. The senators in assembly will talk to you. Because I've done it for 3 years. They take time. And
Karen, can you wrap it up?
Yes. They do take time to listen, so please do what you can do. And I'll give them updates.
Thank you very much. Okay, go ahead. You're next.
Thank you, first of all, for coming to our meeting. And my name is Marilyn Meyer. I live in a residential community in the county, just a little south of Live Oak. And I wanted to ask a question about roads, but before I do that, I want to make a brief comment on the possible class action suit that may be coming up. If we do pursue a class action suit, we need to keep in mind that there were lives lost during this evacuation. When you consider the nursing homes that had to be evacuated, and during the meeting in Yuba City in March, I know that the administrator of the fountains got up and spoke, and he specifically said, I believe it was 3 of his residents were lost because of that evacuation. I know of another one, a lady had been in an accident, an elderly lady, and she subsequently died because of that evacuation. And I believe there was one more that I know about, but I can't bring it to my mind at the moment. So just keep that in mind, that there were deaths concerning this, during this evacuation, or as a consequence of this evacuation. Okay, so that's all I have to say about that. So concerning the roads, I'm glad that you brought them up, because in Sutter County, in the northern area, up towards Butte County, just north of Live Oak, there's lots of potholes up there. But I live in a little residential area, a little L-shaped street, and we've had pretty good success with the condition of our street. It's just a little 2-block area. However, recently, in the last few years, there have been businesses moving into that residential area. And it's only a residential area, but he's bringing in, not just one, but there's at least 2, possibly 3, that are bringing in big rigs loaded with lumber and hay and different things that are quite weighty, and also construction equipment, because there's a resident there who owns a construction company, and apparently he's using his residence as a business office location and keeping his equipment there in front of the house right on. He lives on the corner, so it's on taking up 2 sides of the street there. The main concern that I have, I don't care if they want to park there, but these big rigs cause a lot of problems with the roads. And we're doing all we can to keep our little street in good condition. And with these big rigs and this equipment going up and down, it's very difficult to do that. Keep the weeds down, the cracks and the gravel and everything. It's a paved street, but there is some gravel that comes off of it. So what I want to find out, I'm hoping the Sutter County supervisors who are not listening at the moment, but perhaps they could listen. Thank you.
We're talking about addressing the problem.
Thank you very much. Because I just want a practical answer as to what me or my neighbors might do about this situation. I was thinking we could get a sign posted that says residential area, not business area, or possibly a sign that would say no big rig parking, which some of the areas in Live Oak in the county do have that up there. And I don't know the procedure, what to do to go about how to start doing this. Appreciate your answer.
Marilyn, and sorry to look like we were distracted, but you nailed something right on the head. An interesting topic that Supervisor Conant and I have been tackling actually the last week. Friday? Was it Friday or Thursday? Thursday we did a tour and drove around to look at the impacts of the big rigs and the trucks that you're speaking about on the roads. We got out of the car, we walked the roads, we drove around, we saw a lot of places. We didn't go up to your area, but we did see the heavy impact of trucks. For the last 2 years, we've had truck work study sessions. This has been a topic of discussion. My thing is that I say trucks are going to come, so we need to write the right ordinance. But if you recall from my discussion a little bit earlier, one of the problems with Sutter County is we actually do have an ordinance from what you're talking about. The impact of trucks on the roads, how much the trucking companies are supposed to pay, where they're supposed to be parked, what the noise level is supposed to be, how much dust they can create. We have all of that on the books. But we don't have anybody enforcing it at all. And this county in particular, I don't know how Yuba County operates, but I can tell you this county, for me, it has operated from a complaint standpoint. So it's reactive instead of proactive. And what happens is somebody comes in, file a complaint, then let's say you came in for your neighborhood in this issue, then the person who owns the truck company will come back and try to get out of the complaint, but there's never an enforcement person who actually gets down there because the enforcement person hasn't been funded. Now there is some history to this. The taxpayers said, well, we don't want you to spend any more money on an enforcement person, right? Because that's tax dollars being spent. So there has to be a balance. So we need to get the support of that to do it. And I think you nailed a problem that is occurring. It's going to grow. It's a big issue. The roads are a big issue. We sit on Public Works, and we're talking about a small amount of money compared to the roads that actually get repaired. One road we looked at in particular, they were talking about costing 15 million, I think it was, or $1.5 million, $1.5 million, 1.5 million.
About a quarter mile long.
Yeah, a quarter mile long, just 1.5 million. It's already been impacted by the trucks. There's so many roads in Sutter County, and the way I've seen it addressed, and I think that you're a very good presentation. I think you should contact your supervisor directly. I think, Mr. Solinger, right, would be the one. You would say to him, I want my road fixed. I want you to do something about this truck. And then he goes and Sutter County does react. And there is once the complaints are filed, there has to be some sort of action that takes place. Beyond that, we need to really look at getting enforcement. And beyond that, we as your supervisors, we should be held accountable to you to come up with a trucking plan. Where are these trucks going to park? What are the regulations going to be around them as this grows? On one side, it's tough on the roads, it's tough on the area altogether. On the other side, there's some positive impacts to the economy itself, where there are a lot of jobs and creates a lot of opportunities for transportation and things in the county. But it needs to be handled right, and we have not done that over the last, I don't know how many years, but we haven't done it. But we are committed to doing it. Again, sorry to interrupt you, but it was funny because we looked at each other and said, "Wow, this is something we just dealt with this last on Friday," So it was good to know that we're out there doing that. But please do contact your supervisor. If for some reason you don't get a response, we're on camera. Call us. We'll see how we can help you out. Okay, we'll see what we can do with that. And quickly, Marilyn, to your point about the loss of lives. We were there for the flood and saw some. It was really a sad moment. So, just those people are on our minds all of the time. Based on someone's decision, based on their inactivity, based on their negligence in taking care of a dam, those people passed away, and there is no reason for that. And we think about it all the time, and we will never, ever lose their memory, and we'll continue to fight alongside with the people that were mentioned here, like Assemblyman Gallagher and so on, and push to see what we can do to resolve those issues and keep them ever happening in the future. But thank you for bringing those things up. I really appreciate it.
Next question.
I was just going to...
What, Matt? Sorry.
I couldn't agree more with you. We, like Supervisor Flores said, we just visited, and the problem is these trucks are going to create a lot of damage. Hold up. He creates a lot of damage on the roads. And consequently, this section of road was that we were looking at was old Highway 99. An old Highway 99, and we have to repair that road correctly. We have to pull, it has a foot of cement in below it, and the cement slabs are shifting, so that consequently the road just kind of goes every which way, and looks like a checkerboard, and it's just a mess. But in order to fix it correctly, we have to pull all that concrete out and put new base rock in and rebuild the road, and it's only about, it's not even really 2 lanes wide. And they have all these big heavy trucks driving down it. It's just a mess. But they do destroy the roads. But like Supervisor Flores says, they do create jobs in our community. And there's got to be a good balance, and they got to be in the right places. And we need code enforcement officers to deal with that problem. Thank you.
Next question.
Hi, my question is for Randy. I have property up on Dixon Hill Road. And I was wondering if that development is still in the plans for up there. Is that on the Fellowship of Friends property? And to do with that, there were some people coming around wanting money for getting the road paved and stuff up there. And if that happens, if I can't afford to kick in, will there be a lien put on my property for that, if that would happen? And can we get a speed limit on that road?
Okay, so I'll answer the last one first, I guess. Speed limit, they do a survey. How do they come up with speed limits around anywhere? They do a survey, they find out what's the average speed, and then they'll actually post it of what the appropriate speed is based on what's the average speed that most people drive. I can't tell you exactly where the line is that you're talking about, but where you have property, and it's at this point not a county-maintained road, but a private road, what we're going to offer to those individuals, if they don't have the cash, and you're on a maintained, it's a private road, but supported by the county, so we can take each lot. I can go out and borrow money on your behalf, spread it out for as many years as the community would like, fix the road next year, this year, whenever you'd like, to the specifications that you're actually willing to pay for as a group. You go through a vote process, a 218, where you get the majority, and we can fix them. And that's what we're offering, and I've done it. We've done it up in that area. We have a couple of more on board. I think there's one potentially down around Wheatland that we're looking at the same thing. So the fact that you don't have the cash up front, yes, it could be attached to the property. You end up with a better road. If you were to sell your property, that's part of the lien on that property that's paid off by somebody that would buy it from you. And that is a way to fix this reasonably.
So I get a forced lien on the property there, is what you're saying?
If that group in that community votes for it and the majority vote for it, that's correct.
Nice. Is that development still in the works up there then?
I'm not sure which development.
Well, I read stuff in the paper about a couple hundred houses getting put in up, I believe, on that Cottonwood Road, up down there somewhere.
I am not familiar with anyone that's building any housing other than one or two at a time. I don't know of any other.
All right, I had a question for Andy. You guys are on the Yuba County Water Board. How much money was made in the last couple of years on that, selling water to some other counties?
I really couldn't tell you how much money was made. I do know that there are restrictions as to what we as an agency can use the money that we get for power generation or water sales. But we've been managing the funds. We've just taken over for PG&E. We built a new control house, added employees. We have scheduled maintenance. Unlike Oroville, we have scheduled maintenance on Moore's Bar. And it's a couple of $100 million a year to maintain Bullard's Bar and Colgate Powerhouse. Plus we have to build probably in the area of 10 years of reserves. It's going to take us 10 years to get all the reserves that we need to be able to replace the equipment that goes south. So there's a lot more to it than people would like to think. And it's not, as they've said, it's your money, it's your water. You do have problems with people overdrafting groundwater, and we're trying our best to control that to where it's not like they're stealing from everybody in the county.
You guys are on
that's
the
what's
board, you
happening.
don't know how much money was made? Who do we find that out from?
Well,
If not you guys.
I can get it.
I mean, I don't
I can get it.
down to
but
the
it's
last
not-
level, but ballpark figure.
If you don't mind, I'll jump in there. So last year, there were about 30,000 acre feet that were sold, around $600 an acre foot, equates to about $20 million. Now here's a very interesting scenario of how that works. The state of California requires that we release a certain amount of water for the fish. It's mandatory. We released for the fish. Then we had an agreement because of the drought. They allowed us to sell that to the metropolitan area in San Francisco. There is no better deal made than that deal. We mandatorily had to dump 30,000 acre feet. From the money that was made from that, a portion went back to each water district. A reserve was set up in-house, and as Andy just alluded to, and I'm on that committee to take a look at how do we build the funds and the infrastructure to maintain Bullard's Bar and the dam. So we're looking at about $250 million that we need on reserve. When you lose a capacitor, a generator, some issue on the dam, you have to order this stuff up to a year in advance. We had a capacitor that came from Switzerland. They delivered it, dropped it, and broke it. Now that was a PG&E screw up, and they stood behind it. That was a 2-year project. So again, very complicated process of building the funds, making sure we have risk management on top of all of this, which we are building a risk management team to pay close attention that we repair, replace well in advance of having something go out. Unlike the state of California, where you have to stay on top of this. So we're going to have some pretty hefty reserves to maintain that. At this point, I don't see any water sales that I'm aware of this year. Some of the water that will go downstream, of course, right now we're dumping. We will probably continue to dump the overflow for the next 2 months, it looks like, because of the snow melt that's coming down. So I don't see any sales that are anywhere in the near future.
All right, well, the reason I ask is because how much money was made and stuff, because us people that were living on the ditch had all of our fruit trees die and stuff because there was no water going down the ditch. So what did the people of the county get from that? When our stuff was drying up and we were selling the money.
And what ditch is that?
The one that runs through alongside the Dixon Hill Road there.
Out of Dobbins and Oregon House?
Yeah.
So the water that comes through Bullard's Bar goes directly into the river. There is no water that goes down that ditch. This is, they have nothing in common with one another. Where your water comes through is the North Yuba Water District. That's a whole nother issue that I am somewhat working with. It just got a new board, and we'll be looking at opportunities, hopefully this year. What can we do to support that?
Okay, and then my second question for Andy was, is there something we can do with the rice farmers down there? I mean, it sounds like they're making millions of dollars all the time. And I live up on the hill there, and I can see all the way across the valley to the Snowy Mountains when it's clear, which isn't very often. We get all the pollution from San Francisco, and I know we can't do anything from that, and Sacramento and all. But when I drive down into the valley, I see all these guys burning and all the plowing. Okay, maybe you can't do nothing about the dust from the plowing, but what about the burning? I mean, we got to have all these strict regulations on our vehicles and everything, and when you come down there, I can just see the smoke clouds going by.
There are certain things that they have to burn once every X number of years, and there are restrictions. They just can't burn because they want to burn. They get a slap of a fine on that. So it's pretty well controlled, but certain things have to happen at some point in time.
Let me jump into that as well. Matt, you may be able to address this better than anyone, being on the Farm Bureau board. You're pretty familiar with the regulations and the rice and what they're mandated to do.
The Air Resources Control Board in Sutter County regulates the number of acres that can be burned any given day, and based on winds, weather conditions, multiple factors. And I gave up trying to guess when I can burn a burn pile that I've waited for 2 years to burn, but I finally got one done. But And we're trying to go to a no-burn situation in our industry, and we were doing pretty good until about 2 years ago when PG&E and other utilities decided to cut the amount paid to cogeneration plants, and a lot of our biomass plants that burn ag resources as well as forest waste products were shut down. And when those plants are shut down, now we've got no way to get rid of our waste products from our orchard operations. And same with the forest regions where Randy's at. We've got to get a handle and more cogeneration plants built in this state. And that's a real hard road to hoe because the utilities don't want to buy this because natural gas is cheaper for them to use. But we have to get rid of this product. It doesn't make any difference if it's an orchard or a forest region. We have to get rid of that waste product. If we don't burn it in a co-plant where we scrub it and we sequester that carbon, then you end up wasting the product either burns naturally or by a man-made fire, and that carbon gets through the atmosphere and regenerated, and that carbon is not sequestered. So it's important that we build these type of plants and maintain them, and the utilities are going to have to, the consumer is going to have to end up paying the bill for higher energy costs because of that. But we've got to, even if you don't believe that global warming is occurring, it's important that we have these plants because we have to have a way to get rid of this waste product, both ag and forest, and that's why it's so important. But it is going to cost the consumer more money but it is a renewable resource. Natural gas is not. We need to be looking at the long term. It may not be green power, but it's pretty close.
Bill?
Yes, I'm sure both counties have been approached by leaders of the state of Jefferson on enjoining the lawsuit that was put forth last Monday? Tuesday. And I'd like to know what the status is on that and why, other than the attorney advised not to.
Well, our board is for participating in the lawsuit. But our county council right now is trying to work out a way that, I think it's a speaker, not the mic, but they're working on the language to where we can participate without burying our county, because the problem is this lawsuit, if we join, we're liable, and if they lose, then they get the legal fees. So I'm all for it.
I think there was an indemnity built into that.
Well, again, we're looking at the legal language, and unfortunately, because of California and the way they love lawsuits and love to sue counties, we have to tread lightly before we go ahead and jump in. But all five of us want to get involved. We're just waiting for the legal people to take care of that.
And Sutter County?
I'll tackle it, but we haven't actually addressed that. So I don't know if you've heard that our lawyer in Sutter County advises not to do that. That's the first I've heard that. So you said this lawsuit from last week, so I'm hoping this week we better address that, right? The lawsuit side of it.
I think we can probably have somebody contact you.
I think that'd be great, yeah. So we're happy to hear it.
Hi, I just have one question. I've been kind of hearing through all this election stuff and stuff. I would like to know why no one is held accountable. I'm a citizen. I'm held accountable to to you, to the state, to everybody. Why is not the representatives that are supposed to be representing us aren't accountable to the same laws? One of them is they don't even listen to the Constitution. I've seen different things. I've seen different things where our Constitution is being stepped on, stomped on by our government. When is they going to be held accountable just the way we are? You know, it's senseless for them to get away. They're breaking laws that we would be put in jail for. Yet they don't ever, nothing ever happens to them. I want to know, how can we hold them accountable the same way they hold us accountable?
I think they did with the presidential election.
And it didn't work. It doesn't seem they're still doing what they want to do.
Yeah, Obama's
You're
still on
looking
loose.
for an immediate change.
Well, not really. I'm looking for a solution. I don't want to change, I want a solution.
I think he's doing a pretty good job
Oh,
myself.
I agree, the president's doing a great job. It's the people in the state of California that are ruining everything, and nobody does anything
That
about
comes
it.
back to the representation.
We don't have,
We don't
that's
have
my
it.
point.
That's-
How do we get representation? We don't get representation.
We're working to join them in the lawsuit, and I'm sure some
I'm not even talking about his lawsuit.
Let him answer the question, please. Thank you.
The lawsuit's everything. Without that, you're working outside the law. So if you can't change the law within the law, then you're not going to do it. And we have to get vocal, and you have to participate. You know, in the last supervisor meeting you went to, the supervisors are the last line of communications that you have directly with a politician. Anybody else, they have people. And if you want to hear crickets, just show up with the Tea Party showed up at one of our committee meetings that was going to put a credit card and buy a building and go on a retreat. And guess what? None of that happened because about 10 of you with red t-shirts showed up at that committee meeting. So get involved. And it's not going to be easy. It's an uphill battle.
Thank you very much.
Let me add to that just a little bit. Let me encourage you, go see Assemblyman Gallagher. This last year, he went on a campaign and a road trip around Southern California trying to get Republicans elected to positions. If you want to make that impact, that's the place to go. If you can get a Democrat out and get a Republican in, it will make a huge difference. Huge.
Thank you very much.
And gentlemen, thank you very much for being here. And ladies and gentlemen, please thank the, oh, one more?
Yeah, I have a question.
Oh, excuse me, she has a question.
Each counties, have they created their emergency evacuation plan and posted it online? I just went to the Sutter County one and I couldn't find it. I put
Ours
emergency
is in
evacuation
Spanish and
plan.
long too. It's in, yes.
Okay, I just went to the Sutter County website and I put in emergency evacuation plan in the search and nothing came up.
I know that they were working on the emergency evacuation plan. I'm not sure if it went up on the website or not, but I'll definitely double check to find out what's going on with that. There's been a lot of questions on the emergency evacuation plan because the issue is, where you evacuate from and to and when. So, if there's an issue with a southern levee that breaks, we don't want to send residents flocking down south to Sacramento. If the dam breaks, then we need evacuation from that end. And then, there's so many different ways of evacuation. So I know there were a lot of questions and they were working through it and working closely with the city since 70% of the population of the county is in the city. And I know that we worked with them on that evacuation plan, but I don't know if it's online. You said it's not online? Okay, well, it should be. So, yeah, we'll check it out.
So the police have worked with the CHP as far as the roads, which roads to take?
I can answer that if you want. Okay, so yeah, even during the emergency operations, issue as everything was going on. We were in the Emergency Operations Center here down in Sutter. You know, all of the CHP, the police, everybody were involved in the planning and what was going on. And I don't know who was patting who on the back, like dude mentioned here, but for me it was the most embarrassing, like horrible evacuation, I mean, process period that I've ever been involved in. You know, and I think, you know, for me, my mandate is that we never get caught again with our pants down that way, and there has to be planning. But the police, the fire, they've had multiple meetings since. They talked about, you know, the issue of not opening up enough lanes going down Highway 99. That right there, that was a huge mistake. It should have been done. That's an obvious, hey, let's open up some more lanes since everybody's all going one direction. And we would have saved a lot of time, and we would have helped a lot more people be able to evacuate. I mean, at the end of the day, the numbers that I heard, and don't quote me, but only 50% or less people actually ended up being able to evacuate. So, you know, what if there really was a real problem on that dam? So, yes.
A lot more lives would have been lost.
A lot of lives would have been lost. But there's the police, fire, the emergency operations centers, the city, the two counties, they've been meeting consistently since and talking about how to handle the roads. And even though CHP is big, I heard them really talk about opening up the lanes the right way. And so there is a plan in place to do that.
Okay, when will we know?
Well, we're going to go back, we'll find out tomorrow morning. I mean, nobody from the county's there, only the supervisors are working tonight, but we'll go in the morning, we'll find out why this wasn't posted or where the status is of the evacuation plan, and I'll let you know personally.
I'm pretty sure the city
You all
plan.
have my number.
Oh, yes, absolutely, we have your number, thanks.
I'm pretty sure the city has theirs up, Yuba City right now.
I couldn't find it either.
Really? Okay, but let me just say one other thing real quick, and it's not an excuse, but that was the biggest chaos because DWR kept saying everything's fine, and then at the last minute, we get a text, the alternate emergency spillway, or alternate spillway, what they were doing at that time, was going to fail within the next hour, and it was imminent, according to them. Well, it was on a Sunday evening. Nobody was, I mean, CHP staff was not adequate. Sutter County staff was not adequate. Nobody knew it was coming. There was nobody way to plan because we didn't know what was going to happen. And, you know, usually when you have evacuation, you kind of ramp up to it. This was just boom. And it was not planned as well as it could have been. Let's put it that way. Thank you.
Let me add to that. So in Yuba County, if you'd like to get that plan, it's from the OES office, Scott Bryant, and most of it is geared for the slow water rise situation. We've had experience, obviously. I go back to even the late 60s, 70s, 80s. I've gone through several floods. I've been involved, and we've sat around the table at Yuba City Police Department. We made some plans. Then along comes this disaster, and it happened, as Matt indicated, it's immediate. We had a problem, and it's now. So now what you get to do is move 70,000 people in an hour. That's a problem. I don't know that there's ever going to be a plan to handle that many that fast. There are some things that could be done. Let me encourage you that maybe one of your future meetings, you want to have the two sheriffs, the two police chiefs, and CHP come sit up here and have that discussion. Yes, they are working on it. They have had discussion. I've had that discussion as well with them, but you need to hear it from their perspective. And you know, the few days before that happened, we had a meeting at Yuba City Hall, and we said it's safe. However, there is your personal responsibility to take care of your lives, your family. You must have a plan. So the counties, the cities, they may have a plan, but you must have a plan and follow through with your plan. I had a call from a number of my family members. Oh, it'll be fine, I'm just gonna stay home. Are you out of your mind? You're sitting in the low-lying water in Yuba City, and you're gonna go under 17 feet, you get in your car, you bring your bags, and you come to the foothills, which they didn't do. Now, I don't know how to be more clear than that. Gotta have your plan, work your plan, and do it in advance. If you are concerned, you see a problem, then I would tell you, move on it. But let's bring those in here and have that discussion with them.
We're going to have to cut you off here because we have one more question and we're going to have to leave, so.
As far as the spillway goes, I think it was Matt, or maybe a couple of you talked about how they didn't inspect the spillway, they weren't up. Do you guys have any proof of that? Well, at the DWR meetings, they were talking about, they had annual inspections, like this was some kind of free.
Well, in 2016, I read the report, I never read anywhere it was inspected. 2015, it was a visual inspection. My understanding, that was a look from the top, a look from the bottom. That's not an inspection.
Well, but
And a true inspection is done when you take and you walk the spillway and you tamp it every 3 feet, up and down, all the way up and down the spillway. That was not done. I don't know when that was done last.
Let me chime in here because I'll answer the question. There's more than enough documentation. They lied to you that night, and the reports are there.
When they're at the meetings and they're telling us that they did the inspections, how come none of you guys are there calling them on it? We're talking about how bad DWR is.
Oh, we were definitely there, sir.
I didn't see anybody else.
Oh, yeah, you were in the room with us where all the activity was happening beforehand for an hour and a half before the DWR meeting.
Why aren't we doing it in front of all the other people that are there?
That was a public forum for you to be able to share your voice, and we wanted to be there to listen. But we were there, and you can read about it in the paper if you like.
If we don't see it, we don't know it.
Well, it was definitely in the paper the next morning. I'm sorry we didn't get out enough. I'm sure Paul would put it on the news as well. But there was very heated conversations about the topic that you brought up. We were very frustrated. Were you in the room too? You were in the room too. So, it was very. This is what they did was unacceptable. They did not come through with what they're supposed to do. It was sheer negligence. A lawsuit should be filed. We're 100% supportive. We will go on the record to do anything we can to help us. We are down the river from an irresponsible government department that did not take care of their responsibilities and duties, and we let them know that loud and clear, and we're continuing to do so. Actually, I was on the news. You could watch it. It's on KCRA.
That's what I was going to bring up. That stuff needs to be on the news then, right?
Yeah, KCR, I think it was actually Fox 40 News that night. They interviewed me, and I said exactly what I just said right now. So you can pull it up, and it's right there. I hope we can say more, and we need to get out there and keep it. I think Supervisors Fletcher's recommendation to stay on top of Gallagher and Nielsen is really important because they have the direct contact at the state level. We're not there. We go there every week, as he mentioned, and we do a lot. We try to keep our voices up, but we can't do it alone. We need you guys there. We need them. What you guys are doing here as a Tea Party is so important. I cannot stress it enough. We need to have as much participation as we can, and I really appreciate your comments in keeping that
And
really
another
up
thing
front.
on the dredging on the river.
Yes.
Is there a certain amount or a certain mileage that you guys are talking about? Are they actually considering that?
Yeah, so there's a whole plan south of Yuba City. I don't know the exact mileage. Oh, I do know it goes from Nicholas to Sacramento, so whatever that mileage is to the river. There's a whole plan. I forget the exact terminology, Paul, you may know. It's the South Sutter River Plan.
I have no clue.
Okay, well, there is a plan there.
Are farmers going to give up their land? Because the only way you can do that is the suction dredging. That's what I did for years, and you have to pump all that material over the levees, and that water has to dissipate down to move that material.
Right.
The farmer's going to give up their land to do that?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And, for me, I'd like to take a look at that plan. We just saw this plan when we were on the boat here a few days ago. Matter of fact, Assemblyman Gallagher was showing us, have you seen this plan? Have you seen this plan exists? But it's not funded, but there's a whole plan. So it would be good to read.
It's a lot of entail in dredging.
Yeah, I don't know how that works, but it seems like it's logical to do something about it to make it happen, so.
Instead of,
What I heard from that was Senator Nielsen will be hosting the next meeting of the group that we saw on the boat. I asked that question, he said, yeah, he could do that. So it's the beginning. We've had this same discussion on the lower Yuba River, where the Fish and Wildlife were actually the people to start the process. You know, to do this, it takes an application and a permit and fees. So at the same time, Garamendi had said, well, why don't you start the process so we don't have to pay the fees? And Fish and Wildlife said, well, I guess we could. And that was the question I had for Tina, who wished Fish and Wildlife that day. How about if you start that process? Could it be done? She wasn't familiar with that. They're so used to, well, you fill out the paperwork, you pay the money, and then we'll look at it. No, how about if you fill out the paperwork and don't pay any money and just do it? How's that sound?
Too much work.
And I didn't mean to be aggressive on that, only factual, because there is no reason for them not to do that. That's your government. Why doesn't your government put this thing together? So we'll see how that goes. We've got more meetings coming.
I have a question for you, Supervisor Fletcher. Do you know, in answer to his question, about the dredging, about where the sediment goes, yeah, where it ends up? Because I didn't see that part of the plan. But.
Well, the impression I got from all of this is it actually goes from the dam itself down the feather and ends up at Sacramento. It wasn't just the lower portion. I got the impression we're talking the entire river. It was the Sportsman Association that was really pursuing this. We don't have steelhead anymore. The salmon are an issue. We're going to have to address this for everyone's benefit. And again, it's back to the P3 program. How many different people can we get to come around the table that'll help solve this problem? It is no one person's problem. It's all of our problems with all the government entities and the private sector. So that's the potential to go after this.
Okay, thank you very much, and this concludes our program for tonight. And thank you very much for being here. And a couple of things that are really, really important. And one, and I'm talking to you, the politicians, and you have to be as aggressive as possible right now. This isn't the time to be smiley, nice to everybody in state government because they are lying like crazy. And this is no joke because it's our lives that are at stake. They are playing tiddlywinks with our lives. And I say that because I was down there at the hearing in Sacramento with James Gallagher and Nielsen, and I saw the whole plot and everything play right out. It's all climate change's fault. And it's going to be Donald Trump's fault. That is the excuse that they're working for. And quite frankly, one of the things that really got to me that was really, really discounted by Eduardo Garcia, who was the assembly member, who was the chair there, no one died that night. Did you know that? We're so grateful that no one died that night, he said. That's the reality. People did die. People will die unless this is not solved in a very, very expeditious manner. Safety plans and also exit and evacuation maps should be done like by tomorrow. I'm being blunt. I used to do safety programs for schools and school districts. There is absolutely no excuse for people not being able to find those maps. We've started here in the Tea Party a calling tree. And I think we have some in the back there. We want to get on it. Just to say, just if there's an alarm or something, there's not even an alarm out here. There's no sirens. There's nothing. The communication that does not exist up there at that dam to the sheriff, and God bless Sheriff Honig, who saw one of those, this Armando or whatever his name, with his hands in his head. The night of this disaster, you heard the story. We would all be dead. That's a fact. The undermining that was going on the top of that dam There's no excuse for this. And I'll tell you, I was so ticked off when I left Sacramento the other day, because why? What even really got me, there were 3 times you heard the word climate change being invoked in that meeting as a cause for all this to get Jerry Brown. So what do? I get in my car and I'm driving down I-5 and I hear this thing about 2 things. One, the state of Jefferson doing their lawsuit, and the next thing, oh, we just heard news that in this assembly meeting, it was climate change's fault. Right off KFBK. I about drove the car off the freeway. But that's where, listen, we're in desperate times. And you saw the river, that's great, we all want to live, because what I learned from Professor B in particular, the dam is in trouble right now, tonight, right now. And yeah, sorry to disagree with you on the speed of the water, but it goes a lot faster than that. And all the experts I've talked to have mentioned that. But listen, Andy, I got to cut you off because we're out of here. We have a gun raffle. Yeah, we're winding it up. Yeah, we're done. That was my report. I'm sorry we didn't wind up. But listen, I want to thank you guys for being here and taking the shots and taking them from me. But, you know, I'm a little bit frustrated because I wasn't evacuated that night. I didn't evacuate. And the reason is I didn't hear the information to evacuate. So, I mean, and how many other people that, you know, but my point is, you know, how about an air raid siren? How about something? You know, I mean, I'm hearing, oh, we're going to text you. This is what I heard from the insanity down there in Sacramento from their meeting. They had their last meeting today, by the way. Perfect Delphi meeting. They had the last of their meetings in Sacramento in the afternoon on a Monday. No one was there. No one.
Everybody's working.
I mean, yeah, and not one, everybody's talking, well, we'll get the warning out to you. We'll send text out here and text there. How many of you text in here? Okay, well, that's my point. Yeah, and so there's just the obvious things, an air raid siren, to work together with one another. I can't emphasize that enough. Okay, I guess we're going to do the gun raffle now. Okay, here we go. You guys have your raffle tickets, or you don't even have to be here to get the thing? So we're going to raffle off that AR-15 over there. Did you want to buy any tickets? Anybody else left? Okay. Can we get Johnny to pick it? Just put him in the basket there. And Johnny, will you pick the ticket for us? Johnny's right there. We figure we're safe with Johnny picking the ticket. Love you, Johnny. Did you buy your raffle ticket, Johnny? No, you do? Well, listen. When Johnny, when you use your gun, will you please tell me about it, okay? Okay. Here we go. Johnny, the guy with the gun who shouldn't have a gun, but he's got one, or 2 or 3. Johnny. Okay, hold on to your tickets here. Yes, here.
Andy, did you buy tickets? What's the first 3 digits of your phone number? Is the last 4? I'm Andy Vasquez.
Hey, how many of you want to pass legislation right now that says county supervisors cannot have guns? 15, raise your hand, please. All right. All right, listen, stay tuned to the radio show. We'll have all kinds of information about the dam and everything and what we can do about it. And contact contact me about getting on the list. We'll see what we can do about getting this phone tree expanded. So thank you very much for being, great job guys, really appreciate it. And we want to be here to serve you and help you too, so thank you. Thank you very much for being here.